It was late. The kind of late where the city seems to have swallowed its own shadows, and only the hum of the subway breaks the silence. Nobody knew why he was there. He simply walked down the stairs to the 42nd Street station, under the dim, flickering lights, carrying a backpack that had long since lost its original color. The trains were infrequent now, crawling through tunnels like tired ghosts. The platforms were empty, save for a few discarded newspapers fluttering in the drafts that swept through the underground corridors. The usual announcements crackled over the speakers, distorted and slightly delayed, almost as if someone, or something, was deliberately twisting the sound. He paused near the edge, feeling the cold metal rail under his fingers, and peered into the dark tunnel.
For a moment, he thought he saw a train approaching, but the light was faint, almost like a reflection. And then it vanished. He shook his head and muttered to himself, blaming exhaustion. He'd been working late, and the night shift in the office had drained him more than he realized. That's when he noticed it, a figure across the platform, not moving, just standing there, perfectly still. The thing was tall, unnaturally tall, and its head tilted slightly to the side. He squinted, trying to make out a face, but all he saw were shadows. Then, in a flash, it was gone. He blinked, rubbed his eyes, and told himself it was just a trick of the lights. But the feeling lingered. That low, creeping sensation at the base of his skull that told him he was not alone.
The first train that night was supposed to come at 1:15 a.m. By 1:20, he realized no train was coming. The lights above the platform flickered more aggressively, humming in a strange rhythm that seemed to sync with his heartbeat. He began walking along the edge of the platform, half expecting to see the figure again.
Then he heard it, a soft, metallic scraping sound, like claws or wheels on the tracks. It grew louder, and yet when he looked down the tunnel, there was no train in sight, no headlights, no sound of brakes, just the echo of that impossible scraping. He backed away from the edge, gripping his bag tightly. Every instinct screamed to leave, to run up the stairs, back to the city above. But some unknown force kept him rooted. Then came a voice, soft, almost imperceptible, whispering from deep within the tunnel. "Don't leave. Don't leave." He froze. The words were faint, distant, yet unmistakable. His mind raced. Who else could be down here at this hour? The subway was supposed to be empty. Trains were rarely running, and yet the voice persisted, growing slightly louder, closer, as if the tunnel itself were speaking to him.
A flash of movement caught his eye. He turned sharply. A train barreled past, or so it seemed, but it was wrong. The carriages were too long, too dark, and the windows reflected nothing. No seats, no lights, no passengers, just black void. He stepped back instinctively, bumping into the wall behind him. His palms were sweaty, his breathing shallow, but when he dared to glance back at the tracks, the train was gone. No sound, no light, Just silence. Minutes, or was it hours, passed, though he couldn't tell. Time had lost its meaning underground. The platform seemed to stretch endlessly in both directions, the shadows growing longer and darker with each flicker of the overhead lights. Then he heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, echoing behind him. He spun around. Nothing. Only the empty station, the cold air brushing past his skin, and the flicker of lights casting strange shapes on the tiled walls. And then he saw it. Graffiti. Not the usual scrawls or tags left by bored teenagers, but symbols, shapes that seemed alive. Spirals and jagged lines, drawn as if by a trembling hand, weaving across the wall. Some of the shapes looked like letters, but none he recognized. They seemed to shift when he wasn't looking directly at them, bending and twisting, forming patterns that made his stomach churn.
The footsteps returned, louder now, closer. He turned again, and this time he caught a glimpse of a shadow, moving in the reflection of a nearby metal column. It wasn't human, not entirely. Too tall, too elongated, limbs bending at impossible angles. The shadow stopped when he stopped. It mirrored him, but not perfectly, like a distorted twin.
Panic clawed at him. He ran along the platform, toward the stairs, toward anything that promised escape. But the station seemed endless. The steps led to nowhere, doors opened into walls, and the tunnels twisted in impossible angles. Every corner he turned, every shadow he fled, it was waiting, always waiting, just out of reach. Then came the sound of the train again, only this time it wasn't arriving, it was inside him, a deep rumble in his chest, vibrating through his bones. The air grew heavy, thick, like he was breathing liquid, and through the darkness the whispers returned. Not one voice, but many, overlapping, echoing, calling names he didn't recognize, but somehow they knew him. Join us. Don't leave forever.
He stumbled, fell to his knees, and looked into the black tunnel ahead. A light flickered. A single carriage appeared, suspended in the darkness, windows glowing faintly. But when he looked closer, the windows showed not the interior of the train, but a reflection of himself, older, hollow-eyed, staring back. And then everything went silent. He didn't remember how long he stayed on his knees, trembling in the dim glow of the platform. Time had twisted underground. Minutes stretched like hours, and hours like days. When he finally dared to rise, the station looked different, cleaner, too clean. The discarded newspapers were gone, the flickering lights steady now. Yet a deep unease gnawed at him. Something had changed, something he couldn't name. He crept toward the tracks, peering down the tunnel. That train, the one he had seen moments or lifetimes ago, was gone. But another figure stood on the platform across from him, smaller this time, hunched, indistinct. Its head moved unnaturally, twisting in ways no human neck could bend. It beckoned him with a long, thin arm. Against every instinct, he stepped forward. A low groaning sound vibrated through the tunnels. He froze, realizing the sound came not from the tunnel, but from within the walls themselves, from somewhere deep below the concrete and steel. His breath caught, misting in the cold, damp air. The stairs leading to the street were gone. The exits were sealed behind walls that hadn't been there before. Panic surged. He was trapped. The whispers returned, clearer now, merging with the groaning. Words formed in the mist, faintly legible. "You belong here. You always have."
Desperation pushed him onto the tracks. He ran along them, searching for another stairwell, another tunnel, anything. The lights above flickered, each flash revealing the walls covered in graffiti that seemed to shift with his movement. Lines forming faces, mouths screaming silently, eyes that followed him. He paused at what appeared to be a train door, glowing faintly in the darkness. He climbed inside. The interior was empty, but not normal. The seats were warped, bending unnaturally, as if breathing. The advertisements above the windows were gone. Instead, strange images flickered, twisted faces, hands reaching from the darkness, eyes opening and closing in rhythm with his heartbeat. He tried the doors. Locked. The train jolted forward. It moved silently through tunnels he didn't recognize. He pressed his face to the window. Outside, the stations were unrecognizable, abandoned, decayed, or completely impossible, like the subway itself had shifted into another world. He felt it then, the presence beside him, not human, not solid, but there, cold, watching, waiting. He dared not turn. The whispers filled the carriage, overlapping, urgent, desperate. Join us. Stay with us. Never leave. The train slowed to a stop in front of a station that didn't exist on any map. He stepped out cautiously. The platform stretched endlessly, lined with columns that disappeared into darkness. No signage, no lights above, only a faint mist that clung to the tiles. Figures emerged from the shadows, not people, not quite. They were human-shaped, but their features were blurred, faces shifting as if painted by water. Some reached for him. Some whispered in voices that sounded like echoes of his own. He ran, dodging them, racing along the endless platform. His footsteps echoed unnaturally loud, merging with the whispers, creating a symphony of dread. And then he saw something that froze him completely. His own reflection in a puddle of water on the floor. But it was not him. Hollow eyes stared back, mouth twisting into a grin he didn't recognize. He tried to step away, but the reflection remained, moving independently, following him, mocking him. The figures advanced. They didn't speak anymore. Their presence pressed against him, heavy and suffocating. He stumbled backward toward the train, but the doors closed before he could reach them. The whispers turned into a chorus, chanting his name, louder, insistent, and the platform seemed to stretch even further, deeper into darkness. He didn't know how long he wandered the phantom station. Hours, days, he lost track. The further he went, the more distorted reality became. The walls, the tracks, the ceilings, they all shifted subtly with each blink of his eyes. Shapes appeared at the edge of his vision, only to vanish when he turned his head. He reached another stairwell. He climbed, hoping for light, for escape. The stairs twisted impossibly, leading downward instead of up, deeper into the subway labyrinth. The air grew colder. The whispers grew louder, no longer behind him, but inside him, echoing within his skull. Finally, he reached a landing. A single platform stretched before him, empty, silent. Only one train waited. Its doors slid open slowly, welcoming him, glowing faintly in the darkness. And in that light he saw the passengers, shadowy figures, hollow-eyed, motionless, staring directly at him. He froze. The whispers turned into one clear sentence, spoken not from the shadows, but from everywhere at once. "We've been waiting for you." The train began to move. The platform receded, the lights flickered, and then nothing. He never returned, and some say if you ride the subway late enough, at stations near 42nd Street, you might see a lone figure in the shadows, watching, waiting, and hearing whispers calling your name. No one knows where the train goes or what waits at the last stop.